It's time. Ladies, gentlemen, it's time to launch the webinar. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to our distinguished alumni, colleagues, students, and friends from different time zones in the world. Welcome to our WMU alumni webinar on the theme of digital innovation for smart shipping. I'm Gang Chen, Associate Professor in the research team of shipping and port management at WMU. And it's my pleasure to act as the moderator for this seminar. It will be around 1 hour long to have 3 presentations by the panel members and also 1 Q&A session. So first, let me share some statistics of our participants this afternoon. We have more than 400 registrants from many countries, among which we have many WMU alumni and also many colleagues from different institutions and organizations in the maritime sector. Thank you for taking the time in this afternoon to join our webinar. On this topic of digital innovation for smart shipping, I think we can all see that digital technology is significantly changing the business and operations in different industries as a driver of innovation and growth. It opens up many new opportunities to drive automation, agility, profitability, and also sustainability. As for shipping operations, digitalization is also a game changer, transforming company operations strategies on all aspects. It covers end-to-end cargo movement and the entire life cycle of vehicles, especially ships. So from new building to operations to demolition. A lot of efforts have been spent on digitizing information, digitalizing operation processes, and also transforming business models. So by all the people working along the shipping logistic chain. And this webinar offers 3 presentations by panel members to discuss the current state of digital evolution. So they will use some project examples, including smart engine maintenance, cloud-based collaboration, to reflect on the technologies that are applied in the shipping digitalization and how industry players collaborate to enable digital innovations and how the adoption of new and emerging technologies might affect the global maritime labor market. So we hope that you will find the presentations informative and thought-provoking. So I'm honored to present you the panelists. The Dr. Zhou Guangrong is a former Maritime researcher and currently a senior scientist at VTT Technical Research Center of Finland. His research interests lie primarily in the area of maritime digitalization and shipping intelligence, with a special focus on ship and fleet energy system design and operations optimization. So he has been coordinating several large research industry co-innovation projects in Finland. And Dr. Zhou today will share his experience and insights on digitalizing and decarbonizing the maritime cluster. Another panelist expert is Dr. Hansa Lekdami. She is Associate Research Officer at World Maritime University. She is an experienced researcher in the areas of maritime and labor law, human rights at sea, and technology. She has been working in a number of projects on related topics and also capacity building and training for partners in different countries. So currently she's involved in a major research project studying the impact of new technologies and seafarers called Transport 2040, automation, technology, and employment as a future work. So a little bit information about the webinar format. So we will start with 3 presentations, and then in between there will be some polling questions. Afterwards, we will have Q&A. So I will start the first presentation on digital technologies in smart ship. That we know that shipping is a very historical industry that from very beginning that we have wooden ships, and then in 1980s that we start to have steam engine, and the first successful transatlantic crossing was in 1890, and then around 100 years later that we start to use diesel engines until today that we are still using diesel engines. An autonomous ship is not very far, right? As we hear in the industry, there's been a lot of efforts at developing different parts of different technologies to enable autonomous ship. In general, this digitalization is a journey to move control from ship to shore. And there are a lot of aspects, and today I will only touch the maintenance, just to give one aspect example to see where are we today. Maintenance, in principle, that we have 4 generations. The first generation is basically reactive. So whenever you have something broken, then go there and fix. In the second generation, that will be more proactive. They will plan maintenance regularly, so we can find the things are about to go wrong and then fix it. So we don't allow engine, we try not to allow the engine break. In the third generation, that we can use more technologies to monitor the condition of the engine. And so we know how healthy the engine is at any time. And the fourth generation, this is predictive maintenance, where we can predict for each component of the engine where if you have anything or one, it might break. So we can foresee when we will need spare parts. And in general, we in the shipping sector are still at the second generation doing planned maintenance. And in recent efforts are moving towards condition-based maintenance. We have been involved in a project also looking into auxiliary engines which generate electricity power for ships. It's actually quite expensive to fix the breakdown because there are transportation costs, there are also spare parts costs. The cargo might be not safe, and of course the ship will be also off from hiring. So what we can do is just utilizing all the sensor data technology to collect information about the engine. Actually, most of the engines have sensors installed inside. Those sensors monitor fuels, lubricant oil, air, exhaust gas, temperature, pressure, cooling water, etc. When we get this, when we get this information back through the internet or cloud, then we can do condition-based monitoring. So how it looks like is we will make some data locker to connect all the sensors. It looks like this. So this box actually connects to all the sensors and then convert signals into digital and connect to the internet connection. When the data is ready, then we push the data to the cloud and then organize it into a database. So we can do some programming, some analysis. Those analyses are typically having like pre-processing, feature extractions, and there we will have a lot of models from statistical models, machine learning, and those models can be used to quantify the health situation of the engine. If anything is going to happen, then we can detect it in good time, and we can send alarm. Like in this case, before breakdown, we could detect it around a week in advance. So we can send alarms through emails to both the engineers on board and also the people on shore. Then they can actually log in the system to see the real-time information. So here, actually, we have some analysis based on the models where we show not only the real-time data, but also some diagnose. So which part actually seems going wrong, and then how serious it is. So it helps the engineers, both on shore and on board, to actually look into the issue and have sufficient time to fix it. So during this research, we have some observations. So first is it takes time actually to do innovation like this. If you look at the research, there have been like predictive maintenance research in the literatures years ago, but the industry is still at second stage, plant maintenance, and even condition-based maintenance is quite, let's say, state of the art. And then there are a lot of challenges in data fusion. We need different expertise actually to combine the technology together to enable a solution. And the data quality is another big issue. Many companies have tried to collect data, but then when you're really spending time looking to the data and to develop some solutions, then you will find actually the quality of data often is not as good as people expected. Sample-wise, for example, in this case, when we want to analyze the abnormal situations or cases, actually there are not so many because we have been spending time. We have a lot of engineers on board taking very good care of the engines, so they are not broken down. And among the data, actually those breakdowns are very few. So we have a big imbalance. That's a challenge for machine learning training. Data sharing is another challenge. The data usually belongs to the ship owners, but the ship owners don't have the expertise like from the engine design or engine maintenance. So actually collaboration with partners from different aspects actually is very important. And crew support. There has been some discussions of autonomous ship where people say it would be good to make it completely autonomized. So we don't have crew on board, we can save their space for the cargo. But actually, after some experience, I think we learned that it's very important that we provide the good support to the crew so we can help them to do the job better, not replacing them. We cannot replace the human intelligence with the artificial intelligence that we have for now. Yes, so this is a small case. And then next, I will invite our panel member, Dr. Zhou Guangrong, to introduce innovative collaboration and collaborative innovation. Yes, Dr. Zhou. Yeah, if you can unmute yourself.
All right. Thanks, Nat. Thank you for having me. It has been a great honor to have the opportunity to share some of VTT's shipping activities with WMU alumni and also the Maritime colleagues. So for those who are not familiar with VTT yet, so VTT is one of the leading research organizations in Europe. All right, so VTT does mostly applied research, so to support Finnish industries and also society. So as VTT is the only national research organization, technical research organization at VTT in Finland. So we are supposed to support the oil industries. So that's why VTT has played a very critical role in the Finnish innovation system. So VTT has basically consisted of three key business areas supported by 5 lighthouses. As you can see, so shipping is one of the mainstays in Finland. So it has been very well reflected in VTT structure, and smart and green shipping has been also very well aligned with VTT's main research focuses as well. So back to the topic, innovative collaboration and collaborative innovation. So to begin with, so I want to make it clear, innovative collaboration is very essential and critical for maritime digitalization, decarbonization, and automation. So we cannot do things alone and hope we can achieve the success to meet especially IMO's target by 2050. So why is that? As we know, shipping is of a collaborative nature, so it involves a lot of stakeholders at all stages of shipping. So that means the collaboration is very essential and critical for the success of global shipping, especially at the times now we have a lot of challenges ahead of us. So, but in practice, unfortunately, so shipping is operated as functional silos. So only very limited interactions between different silos are happening, which causes unnecessary complexities, uncertainties, and also result in unnecessary inefficiencies. So one typical example is a rush to wait. So ships are cruising at high speed to arrive at ports, but wait for a long time for their turn to enter in the port. So this may sound a bit strange, but unfortunately, it is happening in everyday shipping. And by some research, so we know, so if instead of rush to wait, we use just-in-time arrival approach, so it can save at least over 20% of fuel to improve the efficiency. But what is the challenge here is, so how can we really enable the more efficient collaboration and communication? How can we do that? So the digital technologies give us possibility and opportunity to do things better. But the challenge here is different stakeholders. So their readiness to digital technologies varies a lot. It varies a lot also for different countries, for different regions. So for example, in this case, so the ship owners, so they may collect a lot of data, but they don't necessarily know how to use the data efficiently. For some other stakeholders, like the service providers, so they have the capability to do to help analyze the data, utilize the data, but they don't necessarily have access to the data. And for some other system vendors, so they may have digitalized the product, but the lack of platform to test and optimize their solutions. So everybody owns something, but at the same time also miss something to attain their goal for better design and also operation of ship and fleets. So what can we do to really solve the puzzle at the global shipping level? So like mentioned, so the innovative collaboration definitely is the key, and how to engage, enable, and enhance the collaboration within the maritime domain, so is the key. And one of the key issues, of course, is the benefit. So people are wondering, of course, the security, so that is very important. So every time when somebody is sharing something, you're always wondering, so if this sharing is safe or not, if my data is still with me or not. But more important here is, so can I get the benefit from the data which I shared? So what we propose here is a cloud-based framework for information exchange and enrichment. So not only to enable the information sharing here, but more important to enrich the data for the benefit of the stakeholders, not only the receivers, but also the party who is sharing the data with others. So to make it clear, so we rearrange the silos. So in that sense, so we bring all the stakeholders on the same platform. So everybody can share the information. So they can also decide what to share to whom. And also they can decide so which information they could receive from their perspective to benefit their design and operation of ships, for instance. So the foundation of this innovative collaboration platform is a maritime domain knowledge graph. So as here, just give you a small example, it includes 200 nodes. So the color of the size of the node indicates its label group or type of the entity, and also the connectivity with the neighboring nodes. To make it simpler, so the foundation stone of this maritime knowledge graph is a resource description framework, so-called RDF triple. So it follows the subject, predict, and also object order to give extra information to show the relationship between the two loads specified. So in this case, for example, so we have Viking Grace here as a shipping company, and we have also Viking Grace here as a ship. So as a very simple example, so Viking Line owns Viking Grace, so it gives a extra information about the relationship between the Viking Line and the Viking Grace, for instance. So this framework has been very well utilized by many other domains, including Wikidata, DBpedia, for instance. And more important here is, so this framework could work as an open framework. So everybody who is interested in contributing can be part of the framework. So by working together, so everybody could complement each other to provide information for others, to receive information from others, to benefit our own task, and also to benefit others as well. Of course, so nobody can do things alone in shipping. So this is very important for us. So when we are doing the work together, especially the innovation is the core for the future shipping. So how can we do the innovation together collaboratively? So just give you one example, for instance here. So by doing even a very simple task, so we will need the ship owner as a platform supplier. So we will need some expert to provide a model of some technology or innovation. We will also need the system vendors to supply the materials or other technology support to the development. We will definitely also have the service providers in the loop, and also the data providers in the loop to support the action. So by working together, so we can develop better innovation. One concrete example here is this intense project. So it's a ongoing Finnish national project. So as you can see here, so we have 14 companies plus 5 research organizations. So they cover most part of the technical value chain of the shipping. So we have selected the stakeholders by purpose. So in that sense, we could represent the technical value chain of the shipping. So it includes, for instance, the ship designer, shipyard, shipping company, service provider, and others alike. By working together, so we are addressing 7 trendy topics, including emission reduction, data-driven solutions, waste heat recovery, operations, hybridization, and electrification, for instance. So in this way, so we have been working together to do the things very efficiently to develop innovative solutions to smart and green shipping. More specifically, so let's take this organic and wrecking cycle as an example. So ORC is a very promising waste heat recovery technology. In this case, so we have the ship design company Delta Marine, shipyard Meyer Turku, also shipping companies Tanik Sinialan and also Vasanan, plus the system providers Vaterus, Vesok, and also 3 research organizations. So we work together to not only to do the optimal design of organic and wrecking cycle system on paper, but also to make it operated optimally, efficiently in practice as well. So of course, in reality, so there are a lot of challenges ahead of us. It's not so doing innovation and also collaboration is not as simple as it sounds. So to conclude, so digitalization, decarbonization, and automation demand innovative collaboration across the entire maritime value chain. Innovative collaboration and collaborative innovation could make maritime shipping an all-win game for the stakeholders. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Zhou. And then next, I will invite Dr. Hansa Lakitami to give the presentation on impacts of on global shipping labor market. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Gong. So good afternoon, good morning to all our guests for this webinar. So far, we have seen from my good colleagues' presentations, Dr. Gang and Dr. Zhou, that innovation and technology in the shipping industry are already advanced. The questions now are to know in which extent it will be adopted and how. COVID-19 has accelerated using different technologies such as digitalization and automated vehicles in several shipping areas. For example, we can mention here the profound changes that the warehousing sector knew in the last 1.5 years. However, we still can see that the adoption of innovation and new technologies in the global transport sector is slow. The results of our WMU ITF research projects, Transport 2040, and I think all our alumni know about this project. In the first phase of the project, we have concluded that introducing new technology in the global transport sector will be evolutionary rather than revolutionary. This result still valid even now that we are at the end of the pandemic. However, things might change quickly in the maritime industry with the closing of the mass exercise of the Maritime Safety Committee of the IMO the last month. Nevertheless, the adoption of technology depends on several factors. Our research team has identified 6 principal factors, which include technology feasibility, meaning to know if technology is ready for a use in a large scale, the labor market dynamics, knowledge and skills, social acceptance, economic benefits, and finally, regulation and policy. The assessment of these factors, in addition to other ones, shown that there is a clear gap between developed and developing countries, especially in the maritime sector. The introduction of automation in the maritime field needs significant investments, such as infrastructure, regulation, policies, education, and training. In that regard, while some countries are seeking to become the leaders in the field by developing more technologies, by discussing regulations, other countries will not rapidly introduce technology because of their economical, social, and political situations. Also, and from the assessment that we have done of basically about 17 countries, 9 are leading countries and 8 are followers. However, the same research reveals that no country is yet fully prepared to shape the future maritime transport, even the most advanced countries. So there is no country so far that has really a full strategy about how they will adopt technology, whatever, if it touches regulation or training or skills. So far, we still have a lot of things to do, even for the most advanced countries. Well, to illustrate this, I'm giving here some examples from Africa, and I'm not comparing like between regions. I'm giving just some examples from the same continent to see that even from the same region, there is a lot of differences. Here in our slide, we can see the port of Tangimed in Morocco and the regional hub, the port of Djibouti, who both they are doing an amazing work trying to modernize the port sector in the continent. Both of them have invested a lot in the modernization of their activities, including the investments in big terminals and some automated solutions to increase their competitivity and efficiency. However, the level of the investments on automation and digitalization still at the starting point for both of them. So for now, their big priority, I would say, it's still on investing on infrastructures. We have other countries that's still dealing with other challenges in Africa, like port congestion, for instance. Most African ports have this problem as they were built near the residential areas. Or port security, for instance, without talking about the Gulf of Guinea, here I'm giving the example of the port of Dakar, as it was highlighted a lot lately in the media, and especially after the explosion of the ports of Beirut, as the port of Dakar had in their warehouses the ammonium nitrate. So it was a huge risk that the port of Dakar could have the same accident, I would say, than the port of Dakar. Well, fortunately, the problem was resolved, and the government, the Senegalese government, have seek help to take out this chemical substance. The last example that I'm given here, and it's not well-known example in Africa. It's the ports of Jinjan in Algeria. This port, the Algerian authorities have invested a lot on this port, but the investment was wrong. They invested on terminals and a lot of equipment. The only thing to make it like a regional hub, but they didn't, I would say, studied well the market. So it's among the failure experiences in Africa, because until now, the Algerian authorities couldn't make it as a hub. So all of this to say that even in the same region, countries are in different levels when it comes to the adoption of technology, depending on their goals and challenges. Coming back now to the direct impact of technology on workers, and more specifically, their number and job profiles. Most of the studies that have been published lately talk about the impact of innovation and technology on the labor market, but from a quantitative perspective. We mostly talk about how many jobs we will lose and what are the ones that we will, or what are the ones that will be affected. In our same research, I mean, by the project Transport 2040, we have assessed these questions, and our conclusions are that the current labor force is already experiencing the effects of automation. For seafarers, for example, the introduction of highly automated ships decreases the growth rates in the demand of seafarers, leading to a potential reduction of 22% in the global demand by 2040. However, when accounting for the increase of the volume of seaborne trade in upcoming years, our simulations concluded that an expansion on the demand of seafarers will be about 36%. However, what technology is expected to do is to slow down the increase in the number of seafarers needed to carry out the global trade. The graph in this slide shows that low and middle skilled occupations might be the most affected by automation. In the contrast, high skills occupations such as aircraft pilots, shipmasters, or dock supervisors are not expected to have more than 35% of their work activities automated. But how about other considerations such as new skills and training, and what that will be needed to deal with the introduction of new technology? So now we will go to the qualitative parts of the effects of new technologies and innovation. In the future, workers in the shipping sector will certainly be asked to learn more skills and to have different competencies. A recent study done by the consultancy firm McKinsey mentioned that a demand for technological, social, emotional, and higher cognitive skills will rise by 2030. In the maritime sector, our team here at WMU is conducting a second phase of the project Transport 2040, and we are focusing now more about the skills and the training that will be needed in the future. So I'm inviting our guests to stay tuned and to follow our web page and our social media channels to learn more about the results of our projects. So it's an ongoing research. These questions about skills training leads us to look at the impact of innovation and new technologies on the health and safety of workers. Dealing with new technology is not something easy to all workers. Sometimes it can affect their physical and mental health. We can take here the simple example of the use of internet or connectivity on board ships. Several studies have shown that the increase of the use of internet on board has created some mental issues for seafarers, such as the stress related to social isolation and the expansion of working hours on board. Also, I can give another example, the use of alternative fuels. So now everyone is talking about the alternative fuels, but do we know that ammonia, for instance, or hydrogen might be dangerous for the health of seafarers, their health and safety? So how to deal with all of that, and where is the place of workers, or in our case of seafarers, in all of that? So at an international level, there is a few, very few laws and regulations recognizing the importance of seafarers on occupational health and safety when it comes to the use of innovation and new technologies. And at national levels, regulations still very weak. I've done a recent study with the two of my good colleagues recently, and we have studied some national regulations, and it's quasi absent. There is a lot of things to do in such a thing. ICM code seems to be the main legal instrument that can support and enhance workplace innovation for companies. However, it tends to be for the most competitive ones, as far as no clear and detailed policy at the regional or country levels that it's promoting workplace innovation. So what policy responses can make a smooth transformation? First, we have to say that strategic and policy responses to the introduction of innovation and technologies are highly contextual, depending on the situation of countries, reflecting the extent of their digital and automated infrastructure, national priorities, capacities to mobilize public-private partnerships, and so on. Strategic responses depend also on the relative economical position of countries. We have seen the leaders, followers, and latecomers have different goals and face different challenges. So the conclusion is that there are no one-size-fits-all solutions, and it's still difficult to identify ready-made models. However, two areas should be given special attention. The first one is developing frameworks regarding regulation and policy, and that includes also the protection of workers as regards to their health and safety, investment on automated and digital infrastructures, encouraging ongoing and new initiatives, and finally, establishing channels for international collaboration, technology transfer. And second, and most importantly, investing in capacity building related to new skills and research. And as a conclusion, which joined completely the conclusion of my good colleague Zoe, further international collaboration, he took it from the local perspective, but I'm taking it from a wider perspective, which means that further international collaboration is very important to do not leave any country behind. Important benefits can come from close collaboration among countries at different stages of readiness of adoption of new technologies. The potential for expanding such collaboration is significant, especially when it comes to technology transfer, human resources development, and joint implementation of pilot projects, but also to explore joint business models. With a good collaboration, including all stakeholders working in the field, we can avoid the increase in the difference between countries and regions when it comes to the introduction of new technologies in the global shipping labor markets. And thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Hansa, for sharing your insight. Now we come to the Q&A session. As a moderator, maybe just take the advantage to ask a question to Hansa related to your presentation. at the beginning that you mentioned, there are some differences between countries. Some countries are leading in technology development, while some countries are a little bit behind. So a natural question would be like how those leading countries can help the developing countries in the technological, let's say, transformation, so we don't have anyone left behind.
Well,
Could you share your?
Thank you, Gong.
Yes.
Thank you for your question. Well, the natural response, it will be to help on the technology transfer. All countries have to collaborate together in this objective, how we can transfer technologies from developing countries to developed countries. Of course, it's not something easy. It's easy to say, but it's not something easy to do. But I will go back to what Zoe said. With innovative collaboration between countries, it might be feasible. Of course, there is also the public-private partnership, how the leading countries can invest on the developing countries, but of course the negotiation of the contracts on the investments on those countries should be well negotiated, so we don't have at the end, you know, some challenges. So it should be some win-win negotiations between countries. So those are the ones that I can see, but of course the collaboration between countries, it's very important.
Yeah, thank you, Hansa, for sharing. And then let's take some questions from the audience. Actually, our alumni office have given me some questions which was sent to them by email before the webinar. Like one question was, so how is the optimization of digitalization measured in ship and operation management? So how this optimization of digitalization are measured in ship operations and management? I don't know whether like Dr. Zhou can address this question.
Thank you, Gang. Yes, it's a very good question. So every time when we are talking about the digitalization, so people are expecting tangible benefit, right? So what is the performance measured? So if I put it a very simple way, it is basically by using digitalization, we can do things better with less time, effort, and costs. So the performance can be justified from the technical perspective and also from business perspective. From technical perspective, so by using the digital technologies, so we can do things better. For instance, operation, giving the example, this rush to wait, instead of rush to wait, by using digital technologies, so we can achieve just-in-time arrival. So it will save the cost. It will also save the time for the crew and also for the operation, and also bring more, let's say, profit to the stakeholders, for instance. Yeah, so in short, so I think this measure instrument, of course, is not that simple. So different stakeholders, they are looking at this from different perspective. So there may be some even conflict of interest, but overall, so by using the digital technologies, so the performance can be definitely justified, you know, from the money-wise, from the time-wise, and also from the resource-wise as well.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Zhou. And then we have some other questions. I think I'm just trying to combine them a little bit. There are a couple of questions related to technologies. Technologies, I don't know, maybe Hansa can address this. So one question was asked, like, what is the major digital technology that changed the maritime sector and business? Another related question was from Dean Kansen. he asked like how can 5G technologies contribute to maritime innovation? So these are like similar questions addressing the digital technologies. Could you share a little bit on this topic?
Well, I can answer to the first question. I think with what's happened with the COVID-19, we have seen a lot of increase of the use of Internet of Things. We are talking now about gig economy, e-commerce. I think the most disruptive, I would say, digital technology that we have seen lately is the Internet of Things. I can also maybe mention the use of sensors, you know, and on board. I mean, you have mentioned it also, Gang, on your presentation. But as a potential, I would say, technologies that might come very quickly, I would say machine learning.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Hansa. Maybe I can add a little bit to this 5G technology, just to share. I'm not expert in the 5G technology, but I can see it is applied in the maritime innovation. So especially to reduce the time lag for real-time monitoring. Let's say right now in on ports automation, that the 5G technology is utilized to connect, let's say, the vehicles in the real time. So actually we can avoid any risks or damages because of the time delay of signals. And right now we have a lot of development on autonomous vehicles. You know, it used to be like we make the fixed route for the vehicles, but now when you have 5G real time, then actually you can really try autonomous vehicles. There are some big companies are developing those vehicles that they can operate in unlimited area. So that from that sense, 5G technology is really important. And then there are some other questions. There's one on, let's say, how is the economics of digitalization changing the shipping computation? So maybe I can try to like share my own view a little bit. I think digitalization, I mean, definitely it involves the first digitization. Basically, we need to change the data from analog to digital, and that actually takes some efforts. Many companies are doing that at the beginning, I mean, as a kind of investment. And certainly there's a cost. And then at the beginning, that we will see, it's typical that the companies see that, oh, how to use this data, and there's so much, and probably people will have a feeling, okay, we are drowning in the data. But this is the first stage. But second stage, when you are gradually get familiar and then get ideas of how we can utilize this data to, let's say, improve processes, increase the efficiencies, and then we start to benefit. But of course, very important thing is we should not create more load to the people. Actually, I mean, they are quite busy. So we need to simplify or automate the processes so we can help them to improve their decisions. So that will, in general, reduce the transaction cost. So in computation, when your company can have improved, more efficient operations or decisions, then you are more competitive to the others, right? And later, that we can see actually those data will be used, digital technologies will be used to enable new services, new business model, because we can address customer values better. So typically they will see there's some new startup or new, let's say, development of services or products coming to the market. But as Dr. Zhou mentioned, shipping or maritime is a big chain. It's very rare that one company can do everything. So it's very important that we collaborate in a network. We have seen, we have observed there are so many platforms that are coming up in the industry, platforms for innovation, as Dr. Zhou introduced. There are also platforms for just sharing data. There are also platforms for, let's say, designing new products, like co-simulation of different components. So then we can see how my new product design can actually fit with the other components. So this kind of closed loop is very important to make companies more competitive by, let's say, leveraging the digital technologies. Yes, and then there are many other questions. There's a specific question to Dr. Zhou. Is there any evidence that companies are using data to drive their decision making, or are they using data to affirm their current vision of business planning?
Thank you, Gang, and also thank you, Phil, for the question. Very interesting question. So for the first question, yes. So there are companies using data to drive their decision making already. So I think we have to accept digitalization is the future, not only for shipping, but also for the society. So the early adopters, so they will definitely also gain the competitive advantage. So that's why, so some companies, especially big companies in the maritime domain, so they are starting using data for their business already, especially one example in Finland. So as you know, Wärtsilä is a big engine manufacturer and also some other system providers. So they have been using data to not only for the technical operation, the decision making, but also for the company business operation decision making process. So another example is one oil company in Finland, Neste. So they are also the partners of VTT, so working together to use to help them use data in their decision-making process. So they are the charterers of over 20 tankers globally. So basically, they are also collecting a lot of data. So by working with the partners, so they can get better insight into the data and utilize the data in their decision-making process, for instance, for oil production and also for oil transportation, things like that. So for the second part of the question, I would think, especially if you want to take the advantage of digitalization, so you should have a revised vision of your business, not your current vision of your business, right? So look into the digital future. So what can you do? So how can you really take the opportunity to revise your vision for the future of your company and to take advantage of the digitalization in shipping?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Zhou. And then there's another question to answer specifically. Yeah, the question is, will there be a transformation in the type of person who goes to sea? Does an automated future means a very different group of people with very different skill sets? So even if automation means that control of shipping is conducted ashore, then will we need mariner or technicians?
Well, it's difficult to give a 100% sure answer to this question. I mean, it's all about predictions now. All the studies that we are doing or other colleagues in other institutions they are doing, they are about predictions. But as far as we can see that there is a lot of advancements in the technology, of course we will need new skills and new training, and we have to prepare ourselves for this. To say if we will have different kind of seafarers, maybe we will have the same, but with different training. Maybe they will got more personal development training to adapt themselves. So I can't predict what's really will happen, but I'm inviting our guests to check in few months our website. We might come up with some answers, as we are conducting now some surveys to have the response for this specific question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Hansa, for sharing. Time already reached 3 o'clock, and then we have some results from the polling, and I will hand it over to our alumni officer to share with us the result.
Okay, well, actually, it's Pete here from the registry, one of the colleagues of Charlotte, our alumni officer. So I'm going to share with you now the results of the first question that we published. Where do you think you and your company are in the process of digital transformation? So 28% said we have started some planning. 43% said we are working through changes. 4%, very low number, said we have transformed. I don't think that's a surprise. And 26% said we will wait and see. I don't know if the panel have any comments on those particular results. Are they what you would expect?
Yes, thank you, Patty. I think it really shows that majority of the companies already started. Some of them also have some planning, so they started to do something, and then very few actually have succeeded. Let's say we have transformed, so we can more or less say all of us are in process. So it's we still need to put a lot of efforts on this digital transformation. Thank you, Peter. I don't know whether, yeah, please.
Yeah, and the next question was, to what extent are digital technologies disrupting your industry? So 21% said a great extent, 33% said a moderate extent, 8% a small extent, 17% not at all, and 21% replied they don't know. Do you want me to move on to the final question? Or are there any comments you'd like to make on this question?
Yeah, Dr. Zhou, do you have anything to comment on this?
Thank you. Well, it is a little surprise to me. So here, there's still a large share of people are still not certain about the future in digital shipping. So like mentioned earlier, so we have to change our mindset to be the early adopter, to be able to gain advantage. So that's why, so I really want to encourage, especially those guys are mentioning not at all or don't know, please be active and get more involved in the digital revolution in shipping. That is the only way you can survive and you can become better in the future. That's my point of view, of course. Thank you.
The final question, question number 3. What are your biggest challenges? So 4% replied outdated technology, 38% said culture resistance, 8% high risk, 33% said a lack of digital skills and competencies, and 17% said lack of collaborative networks.
Yes, Dr. Hansa, do you have any comments to this result?
Well, for me, I'm not surprised at all. I mean, we all in a uncertain time, so we need to know what are the new skills or competencies that we will need for the future. lack of collaborative networks. This is a problem either in a local area or regional or international. So we need really to do an effort in terms of collaboration. And then the culture resistance, which we didn't mention in our presentations, but it's true. There is a lot of culture resistance in many areas of the global shipping sector. So I'm not surprised about this results.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Hansa. I think this culture resistance is really a key challenge, not only in the daily culture, but also how the companies operate. And as Dr. Zhou mentioned, typically companies are having are functioning in silos, department silos. So in order to do this digitalization and digital transformation, that we need to actually get all the people closely collaborate, even internally. So we need actually a different set of, let's say, management mindset and also strategy. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Hansa, and also Dr. Zhou, and also Patty for sharing this polling result. And I think that brings us to the end of the webinar. Thank you all for attending the webinar and participating in the polling. Thank you, the panel members, Dr. Zhou and Dr. Hansa, for taking your time and sharing your insights. And I should also thank to the alumni office, the colleagues like Sue Jackson, Charlotte Wara, and also Patty Marriott, who make the webinar actually possible. So thank you, all of you, again, for joining us. Wish you a very good afternoon, evening. Goodbye.